Okay, it is 6 o'clock and I'd like to call the Long Lake Township Board meeting to order. Would you join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Rosa,
Here.
Hoffman is here, Shaw,
Here.
Maney, here, Garvin,
Here.
Wagner,
Here.
Leonardson.
Here.
Everyone is here. Thank you. I would like to take a moment to recognize a student here from West, and he is here for Student Senate. Welcome to our meeting tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Item 3 is public comment. Would someone like to speak tonight? I bet Bob
I
would.
brought my pad. It's usually a sign, isn't it?
It is.
I have a 3-minute, I hope, commentary. Knowing that budgeting is on the horizon,
Yes?
I spotted a very interesting article in the Record Eagle, which is becoming more and more relevant these days, which is a good sign. But there's some pretty interesting info in there, and it derived from the census report, but it's pretty surprising, and it relates to those of us middle-class taxpayers. The essence of it is that the inflation-adjusted median family income, that's half of them above, half of them below, has dropped $5,700 or 8.3% during the years of 2007 to 2012. That hurts a lot of folks, and it doesn't say whether this is private sector, public sector, or a combination. Another Record Eagle article, which was this weekend, points out that renter incomes, and I'm interested in that, being a landlord, renter incomes have dropped 13% from 2000 to 2012. On an absolute basis, the township budget has increased 35% during that period. Rents, of course, have increased necessarily to cover that part of the rents that relate to taxes. Retirees, which I am one of the rank, is another group heavily represented in Long Lake Township. Most private sector retirees are on a pension that does not have anything like a cost of living increase. And in fact, many large companies, such as GE, have reduced their pension benefits as well as their medical benefits. I've experienced some of that, but that's not the point. Retirees have seen some significant reduction in benefits. As many as 44% of retirees today are having problems making their debt obligations. Now, the point, I guess you want to know what point I'm trying to make, but the middle class is in a genuine financial squeeze for survival. I think most of us, I don't know, any 1%ers here, raise your hands. I think probably not too many. But it's a tough financial squeeze. Most of us are touched by these numbers. We're hard put to pay for anything more than the essentials for running our local government. This is, hopefully will be absorbed in some of your thinking in the budget preparation. In that vein, I would urge that you folks on the board do a needs test for each line item. Do you need it, and do you need all of it? Not hard to do, but it might require some difficult decisions. A couple of items, in my perspective, that should have some serious examination. Number one, the acquisition of the Timbers property. If that becomes the responsibility of the township, I would ask that the taxpayers, before it becomes a responsibility of the township, the taxpayers get a chance to read a budget, a 10-year budget that includes the startup cost, the operations cost, the maintenance costs for that 250-acre piece of property for the next 10 years. plus the liabilities associated with it. This property is, Glenn Chaum, of course, has described it passionately in this letter, but he doesn't relate to the ongoing costs of maintaining a large piece of property like that. And I'm thinking of things like removal of danger trees, supervision of the property during the summer when there's going to be a lot of people out there, maintenance of the roads, and so on and so forth that were discussed before the property was designated for acquisition. A few people in the township use an asset like that, but a lot of people pay for it. Everybody else pays for it. This is probably, in a $3 million asset, this would probably be the biggest single asset in the township property rolls, or the township assets. $3 million. I don't know if you've got anything else that's that big or not. But it's a big one, and I think we deserve an operating forecast agreed to by the township board for the next 10 years for that property. The parking lot over at Crescent Shores is not the same scale, but I think it also deserves the same kind of attention and detail for the taxpayers. I noticed in the paper that Empire Township, I believe it is struggling with a similar situation, and they're considering a parking fee, and if that's considered for our own parking lot over here, if it comes to pass, then I think that should be discussed as well. I don't see a reason why a parking fee couldn't be charged, and then those people who don't go boating, there's probably a couple in the township anyway, won't be paying for something they don't use. Not a lot of extra money floating around these days, and only a few will benefit from some of these projects. I hope you'll consider that when you make out the budget, and I look forward to seeing, what is it, June usually is the review meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone else like to speak at this time at public comment? No. Consent calendar.
Under consent this evening, we have the town board minutes of March 11th regular meeting and March 25th special meetings. Treasurer's report dated February 28th. Grand Traverse County Sheriff's Department, Zoning Department report, Planner's report, Grand Traverse Fire, and Assessor's quarterly report. Does anyone from the board wish to have any of those things discussed further and removed from that consent calendar?
Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Trish, is support?
I'll support.
Dwayne? Moved and supported to accept the consent calendar. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Approval or amendment to the agenda. I have no additions to the agenda this evening. Is there a motion to approve as stands?
Also move.
Dan, supported by Trish. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Item 6 is conflict of interest statement. Is there anything on the agenda this evening that would be a conflict of interest to any of the board members? Hearing none, we will move on to special reports. Commissioner Wheelock is here. Would you like to give your report, Sonny?
Well, things at the county are pretty much as usual. We've completed the department by department review of the 2014 county budget. Pretty much the consensus is we're going to continue to monitor the budget and see what is expended out of it in 2014 and actively look at every single item as part of the 2015 budget. We have two major projects going right now. You may have seen something in the ticker this week where we're considering selling the old health department building on Garfield Road to the pavilions to operate a senior program called PACE, where it keeps people in their home, but it allows for a one-stop shop, if you will, for medical services that those people elderly people with, budget constraints, which Bob just talked about, which is most of us anymore, are able to go and get healthcare services at a one-stop place. The proposal that's been thrown around is that we would sell them that building for $500,000. We would defer the payments for 4 years, which means their first payment would not be due until, that makes it 2018. And that gives them startup time to get the building up and going and get the program up and going without having to make payments on the building. The feasibility of this project or program, when they developed the program, was to build a new building. And we think this will make it much more viable to be able to make it happen in our community and serve the members of the community. And the county owns the building. The building does need significant maintenance work. It needs a roof this spring. One way or the other, the roof will be installed, whether it's installed at the pavilion's cost as part of their renovation or whether it's installed by the county. And then it just adds to the value of the building as we go forward. The second project is we have tentatively moved forward with the construction, not with the construction, with the siting of a new Grand Traverse County jail. As I've told you many times before, our jail is overcrowded. The infrastructure is failing rapidly. The Capital Improvement Committee meets tomorrow morning. We're going to look at both the site plan that was created 10 years ago, which allowed for pods to be added on to the existing jail in the parking lot between what is the historic courthouse and the new district court building. Personally, I just have a lot of problems with that. I don't think there's enough parking on that site already, let alone take out another parking lot, along with the fact that the pods are only beneficial if the infrastructure in the core part of the building is able to be used to make it work. The district court judges have expressed an interest in keeping the jail on site, not moving it off site. However, I don't know that that's going to be able to happen. The other site that the county owns that we have done a preliminary site plan for is the property on Lafreniere Road, adjacent to the new health department building. When that property was originally purchased 10, 12 years ago, it was projected at that time that it would become the county services center. We have the public services building is there, the new health department building is there, and there is adequate space there to house the jail. The ongoing discussions that are going on right now is, okay, if we build the jail, who all goes there? The sheriff is still required by statute to maintain an office inside the county seat. So he will have to continue to maintain an office inside the city. That can be an office in the governmental center that he comes to, one day a week, to as far as meeting the statutory requirements. But the city police, who are currently jointly involved at the law enforcement center on Woodmere, will not move outside of the city. We're pretty sure of that. So if the sheriff takes his patrol division and the detective bureau and central records outside of the city to the new jail site, if in fact it does end up outside of the city police probably will not go. The sheriff has expressed in his opinion it's more important that he keeps all of his divisions together than it is that he has joint quarters, if you will, with the city police. So that's an ongoing discussion. The probate court judge, Melanie Stanton, has expressed a lot of interest in making sure that when we do this, we build a juvenile facility as part of the campus, or part of the complex. Juveniles and adults are not compatible in any form whatsoever when it comes to corrections. So it has to be a complete separation. They can't be in the same hallway, they can't be in the same waiting room, they can't be anywhere. So it would have to be a completely separate site. You know, the juvenile problem hasn't gotten smaller. You know, we don't talk about it very often, but it's still a very significant part of what happens in Grand Traverse County. And sending juveniles to institutions downstate is very expensive. You know, Shawano, some of those places are $800-900 a day per child. You know, so if you send a kid away for 6 months, it costs you a lot of money. You know, so, but, you know, I still believe that a juvenile facility is a completely separate discussion than the jail. But the big discussion at this point has to be, what do we do with the city police, sheriff's department, joint situation? And it's the timing to have this discussion is very good. The joint law enforcement agreement, which, as you probably, some of you will remember, the city police used to be at the Front Street building adjacent to the city fire department. When the city police moved into what was the old county jail and the law enforcement center there, the county took over that building on Front Street, and that's where the Commission on Aging and MSU Extension are. That building still belongs to the city of Traverse City. It's not for sale to the county. It's not for sale to anyone else. The city maintains the ownership of the building. The county pays 100% of the maintenance under the agreement. The city, in exchange, has joint occupancy of the law enforcement center. When the building on Woodmere was purchased, the county owns that building, the city occupies that building. But those agreements, although they were all drafted, were never ratified by either the city commission or the county board. It was never finished as far as a formal agreement about what happens with the property and who owns the building and what kind of ownership there is of that. But anyway around it, the joint law enforcement agreement expires in October of this year. So this is the perfect opportunity to have the discussion. We have made application to the National Institute of Corrections in Colorado. They helped us, if some of you may remember, back in 2004, I, along with some other people, attended what they call a pony program in Longmont, Colorado, and they talk to you specifically about what your jail needs are, what the current trends are, if you will, of building jails, whether they be direct supervision, indirect supervision, all of those types of things. You get to tour facilities, state-of-the-art facilities in Colorado that have been built. Douglas County has just an amazing operation there. But along with this program, they send people from the National Institute of Corrections here to look at our existing jail, meet with our judges, meet with members of our community about what we want to have. I've always contended that jail population is about philosophy. The philosophy of my community is if you commit a crime here, your ass goes to jail. The philosophy of our judges is if the sheriff arrests them, the prosecutor charges them, and a jury of their peers finds them guilty, he will send them to jail. Not the case necessarily all over everywhere, but I believe that is still the case here. I meet with our district court judges occasionally and our circuit court judges quite regularly. We have, without question, the highest prison commitment rate in the state of Michigan. But that being said, we take out with our drug court, our juvenile court, our domestic violence court, our veterans court, our mental health court, we take all the people out of the program and put them in other alternative sentencings every place we can. By the time they get to circuit court, which is where our prison commitment rate comes from, if they're found guilty, our judges have no real recourse but to send them to jail or send them to prison. So some people think it's a bad thing. Personally, I think it's a good thing. The recent community corrections meeting, lady from the State Department of Corrections was there, and she told Town Power that he had the highest prison commitment rate of any judge in the state of Michigan, and the rest of us stood up and clapped. You know, so it is what it is, but she wasn't impressed, but it's okay. You know, so we're moving forward with the jail. It's a slow process. You know, the average time it takes to build a jail is 5 years. You know, because of the work that we've already done with the Blue Ribbon Jail Committee that was seated a few years ago, and the evaluation of how many beds we need, the decision about whether it was joint or direct supervision, indirect supervision, and those kind of things, a lot of that work has already been done. We've already brought, you know, criminal, I'm trying to think of the name right now, but, you know, the criminologists that come in and evaluate who's in your jail, why they're there, how long they're supposed to be there for, have already been here. We've done all of that stuff. We've reviewed, we know what percentage of the people in our jail are pre-sentenced, pre-adjudicated, and how many are sentenced felons and how many are sentenced misdemeanors. One of the biggest problems that we have in our jail right now is our female population. You know, our jail was designed for a maximum of 16 women. Last week we had 54. You know, now that's not even taking one of the 42-bed ward type spaces and putting all the women in there. You know, we have over 50 women in the county jail, and they aren't all there for shoplifting either, folks. There's some pretty nasty folks in our county jail, both on the male side and the female side. So, you know, there's without question, it's time for a new jail. You know, and what we need to do at this point, as far as I'm concerned, is we need to move forward with siting it, determining exactly what we want, and then we got to figure out how to pay for it. It's going to be about $35 million. You know, but that being said, I can build a 300-bed jail and man it with no more staff than what we have right now, because our staffing is so intensive with our linear jail, we can't supervise the prisoners. You know, we got these little 6-bed cells that you physically got to go check on the prisoners. You know, where when you go to pods and modules, you know, one guard can watch 2 cells of 52 prisoners. It makes a big difference. And 80% of the cost of your jail over the next 30 years is manpower. So, you know, it's just trying to move forward, and we won't go to Colorado until the next opening for us to go will be probably in August. And, you know, assuming that they accept our application, they're going to send people here and evaluate our needs and our community. I don't think there's any question they will evaluate that we have a need, and then they will, a team of people, including the sheriff, members of the county board, probably the county administrator, possibly some people from the community, will attend this program in Colorado, and then we'll return with a plan. You know, I've asked to be on that plan list if I can. You know, I've probably been the most verbal over the last 16 years I've sat there that, you know, I told them a long time ago I wasn't leaving the county board until we had a new jail, but I'm not sure I've got that kind of stamina anymore. but we're working on it, and we're working on it very hard, and you know, I hope that the community will support that, and I do believe that, you know, the community supports the Justice Department in our community. You know, it's a shame that when you look at 65 to 70% of the county's budget is spent on managing 3 to 5% of the county's population. You know, that's what part of our budget manages the sheriff's department, pays for the sheriff's department, the courts, and the jail. 70% of the $39 million budget is spent on managing 3% of our population.
Madam Supervisor?
Yes.
May I ask a softball question of Sonny here?
I gave up softball a long time ago. My shoulder don't take it anymore.
This is easy enough. But is there any indication, I applaud, don't get me wrong, I applaud hanging judges and all of that, but is there any indication that the tough judgment and sentencing is a deterrent? I don't know how you measure it, but.
Recidivism, which is when people come back to jail for the same crimes, is still ridiculously high. You know, it's.
So they're not getting it.
75. You know, I recently, it's been a couple years ago now, as part of our review of the community corrections program, I review files periodically of people that are involved in the county jail when they're involved in our community corrections program. I distinctly remember dealing with a client, if you will. He was 54 years old. He'd been arrested 37 times. He'd been in the state prison 3 times, all for alcohol-related offenses. And he's back in the county jail, and he's applying for community corrections. And, you know, and the obvious question, does anyone in the room believe that this guy's not going back to jail? You know, unfortunately, the names in the jail are the same, the birthdays change. You know, what we're trying to do very, very hard, and we've put together some great programs, Dave Stowe started them and Melanie Stanton is extending them, is to make sure that when we take we have juveniles in the system, we not only deal with the juvenile, but we deal with the family. Because these kids go away to, you know, these institutions, they come back, they're structured, they've got, you know, this is the time you get up, this is the time you eat, this is what you do, these are your chore responsibilities. They come back home, they may be in a single family or single parent home, mom's working 2 jobs, she's not home when the kid comes home from school, and you know what, he's still got the same friends. You know, so the recidivism thing is terrible. You know, what we're trying very, very hard to do is to eliminate that cycle, or at least try to break it up, or somehow or another do something to deter some of it. You know, and there's no simple answer. You know, those same people are going to be back in the jail. You know, they've went through the, you know, through the program. You know, I used to contend 80% of the people that were in our jail were drunks, and the other 20% were there for crimes they committed while they were drunk. Not so much the case anymore. We have some pretty nasty folks in the Grand Traverse County Jail. You know, heroin, these meth labs are becoming a real problem. You know, they've always been a problem, but they're becoming a much larger problem in our community. And with the drugs comes all the other issues, the embezzlements, the violence, the assaults. You know, they all come related back to the drug addictions.
Anyone from the board have a question for Sonny?
I do have a small one. Sonny, talked about the pavilions. I thought that was owned by the county.
It is.
So how does the county charge the county for another building? I mean, how does that?
Well, the county.
You see where I'm saying?
The county charges all of their other departments for indirect costs and square footage too.
No.
You know, when the construction code, the construction code office is a good example because it's an enterprise fund, but they still pay back to the county for square footage of space. It helps to pay for the revenue that department draws. They pay a portion of that money back to the county for lights, heat, utilities in the area of the buildings they have. They pay back to the county for IT services, phone lines, and all of the stuff that goes with that. The indirect costs and the utilities and square footage gets billed back to each of the departments.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, thanks, Sonny. We'll move on to, Captain Brown is not with us tonight, so we'll move on to Mark McCullough from the Road Commission. Yes,
Well,
Sonny?
good evening.
We're gonna take we're gonna take frost laws off this week, right?
Yeah. Next month? How about next month?
We'll get to that. Well, I don't have a lot, just want to cover some high points. We've got a couple special meetings this month. One of them is going to have 2 topics. The manager's performance review. We're completely re-evaluating the process of how we're going to do that. We may be seeking outside individual to come in and mediate that process. We might contract with a local governmental professional that's handled that through the Human Resource Department, or we may choose to go it alone within the board. And our experience in the past is that we've used a human resource person that was from a governmental agency and helped us in that process of hiring, and probably could go that route again. Very cost effective, but we want to do a thorough review of the manager in terms of past performance, expectations, and where we want to go from here. And we're making that a point of having a special meeting to discuss that. The other part of that is we have converted to electronic board packets. We've gone completely electronic. We just picked up new iPad Airs. Everybody's becoming familiar with them. They are now, every board member is assigned an email address that is owned and maintained by the road commission. No more personal communications or addresses are being used. And it'll give the public a chance to communicate directly with the commissioners using the technology that's available by the road commission. Also, we're kind of the test pilot that this may be some technology that will be rolled out to our staff in the field, which would save a lot of paperwork, time, filling out reports that they can fill out in the field, driving back and forth from the site back in. Roughly, we're going to save tremendous amount of man hours in the preparation of just the board packets alone, let alone the paper, and getting that information quickly. We also, on our website, will have a location that is an intranet that only the board commissioners will be looking at. It's not viewed by the public, and our documents, our official documents, will be there as well. So it's going to be a good process. And also in April, the second special meeting, we're going to discuss our budget. We did this a number of years ago, worked out well. We've done an analysis every April, but we're getting real serious about it. We have two winters. Our calendar is January through December. So we had our first part of the winter, which was November, December, sometimes October, but it's November, December. So that's already settled. And so our winter we're looking at is January, February, and March. And we all know we had a brutal and heavy snowfall winter. So we're going to go back in April and we're going to start looking at, this is a preliminary meeting, start looking at areas we can affect on our budget. We'll pretty much know by the regular meeting in April, late in April, where we're going to be at, and we'll be making some adjustments on our budget. We want to end the year with a balanced budget. There's no reason why we shouldn't, and we're on track to do that. But we need to adjust that. These are open meetings. People are willing to come and ask questions. And then we have our some final review on some bids and some projects that's going to happen as well in that meeting. We felt it was appropriate to discuss those while we're having a budget discussion as well. So there's a lot going on. I will say this too, is that we are at the, believe it or not, we're at the beginning of our pothole season. It hasn't completely hit us at the high stride yet. It will in the next few weeks as things really warm up and we start getting some heavier rains. We expect there to be some, I call it bursting of roads to occur in certain areas. But we're fully staffed in terms of we got enough personnel to be out with all the equipment that we have to fill potholes in a mannerly and orderly fashion. We want to get to the point where we literally aren't spending $300,000 a year on material patching holes. And that's why this summer you're going to start seeing the orange cones everywhere. Please be patient. There's going to be a lot of projects going on, and they're through the summer. 2015, the following summer, is going to even be crazier because MDOT's going to be up here with 3 projects in our region, and we are going to try to work around their projects, coordinate so that we're not, they're not working on a main arterial road, and then we're working on the roads that are the bypasses, you might say, or detours around those. So we're going to plan that out. But we are already now, we've got 2014 scheduled. We've got $3.88 million going out in road maintenance this summer, which is more than what the millage brought in. And we also might be doing more if we get some participation with the townships. And we might be doing some more just because we have a general fund to do. And then we might be contracting third party because we have more work this summer than we have personnel. Okay. 2015, same situation, and we're already looking at our projects into 2016. So we got a lot on our plate. We're hoping that in the next 3 years, citizens will start to see some very significant improvements on some of our major roads with the millage funds. So, and every dime that's going right back into the roads. I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Mark?
So what is the anticipated time for the frost laws?
I have no idea.
No idea,
I can't,
not at all.
I can't even say.
It won't happen in April, I can guarantee you that.
That's right, Sonny. I can guarantee you that too. I don't know. They said it was gonna be on extended. It's throughout the whole state now, and if we're really serious about preserving what we already have and maintenance, we're gonna have to run them longer. Could be 3 weeks longer than we've done in the last past. So, but the alternative is, could be millions of dollars of damage because we lift them 3 weeks too soon. So,
Sonar's showing frost under the roadways 12 to 14 feet deep.
well, that's farther than what we've been heard. We've heard as much as 7, so, yeah.
I've seen reports that show 12 to 14 feet of frost under some of the roads.
So it could be a long while.
There was a lot of frozen water mains that came across underneath the streets this year, if you're curious. There was a lot of cable.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Item 8 is a public comment again. Anyone else like to speak?
I'd like to speak real quick.
Oh, okay.
Bob, I'm not that Bob, but he had a good question for Sonny, and I'll tell you, as a citizen in our community, I'm a huge advocate for specialty courts. Specialty courts are what's breaking the cycle. And if people don't understand what that is, they should go down and they should talk to the probate court personnel and ask them, what are specialty courts? Because that is what, it's mental health, alcohol, drug abuse, domestic violence. These are the things that are really plaguing the system. And they are, in fact, breaking the cycle. And that's what, the punitive goes a long ways, but taking and curing it and, teaching people how to coping skills goes a lot farther. So as a township and as a county citizen, I'm really pleased that they have had a more progressive court system, you might say, although they put them and then lock them up, but they're willing to put them into programs and pay the long dollar on those programs to stop the cycle because they don't want them to come back again. So if you're not familiar with it, I would check it out and talk to people because it's I know Judge Stanton would be glad to explain it to you.
Thanks for the comment, Mark.
Mike
Appreciate it.
Haley's sobriety court is just an amazing process to go through.
Yeah. And the local attorneys have supported it and been very engaged in building and how they've been structured.
I had one brief question too. This is maybe off the wall, and if it is, don't answer, but disregard it. But we're a very compassionate community here in Traverse City, and I have done a fair bit of work with community mental health and the Northern Community Mental Health over the past 30 years. And Goodwill Industries, the combination of all these agencies really helps to take care of people who are in desperate need. And I applaud them for that. But is it possible that we're a little too compassionate? And are we drawing people in that belong in somebody else's backyard? And maybe that's just a rhetorical question, I don't know. But it seems to me we see quite a few of these people that have roots in other parts of the country. And we're taking care of babysitting.
I can't speak directly to that, but I don't think you're far off the mark if you talk to certain people. I'll tell you that's the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I see some of them. I'm a landlord, a small-time landlord, but I encounter a few of these people.
Yep.
There's a lot of people that come here and are involved in our programs and choose to stay here. That being said, ATS and those other people have really made a commitment to the local community not to make their programs available to a lot of people from outside of our region. But that being said, you have a certain number of people that come up and live in the Fife Lake area to be near their loved ones who are incarcerated at Pugsley Prison. And many of them choose not to leave when that release is done. You know, those people are released from prison, they get released in the area where they were incarcerated from. So if they're housed in Camp Pugsley, but they were originally charged in Saginaw, they get released back in Saginaw. That doesn't mean they stay there, it means that's where they're released back to. I used to joke with the Linlow County Sheriff about beta passes that he gave to people when he released them from jail.
I think we will move on. Thank you. We have no pending business, so we will move on to new business. Item A is the Traverse Bay Area Intermediate School District agreement with the summer tax collection that we are asked to do every year. I believe that is $2.50 a parcel, is that
Yes.
correct? And that's been the same price for quite some time, I
Yes.
believe. Okay, we just have to by resolution, approve that summer tax collection. Are there any questions?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 04-13/14-5.
Dan, is there support?
I'll support.
Dwayne supports. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Shaw,
Yes.
Mayne,
Yes.
Garvin,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Leonardson,
Yes.
Rosa,
Yes,
Hoffman votes yes.
motion is carried. Do we have a budget status at all this in here, or is there need for one?
There is no need for any adjustment.
Okay, all right, so we will move on to payment of bills. The check register report is first.
The gold report checks 32021 through 32028 in the amount of $18,272.56. Are there any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the check register report for checks 32021 through 32028 for the amount of $18,272.56.
Dwayne? Who supported? John? Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Leonardson,
Yes.
Mayne,
Yes.
Garvin,
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Rosa,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Hoffman votes yes. Then there's the vendor approval summary, the green report. It covers checks 32029 through 32050 in the amount of $87,578.16. The largest being the $77,097.50 check for a second quarter 2014 fire allocation. Does anyone have any questions about that report?
I'll make a motion to pay the vendor's approval summary report checks number 32029 through 32050, $87,578.16.
Dave?
Support.
Support by Dan. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Shaw,
Yes.
Rosa,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Garvin,
Yes.
Mayne,
Yes.
Leonardson,
Yes.
Hoffman votes yes.
Being no other business before us, we are adjourned at 6:44. Thank you all for coming.